In every age, the powerful stand tall, kings on thrones, generals on battlefields, and leaders commanding armies of men. They look untouchable, invincible, eternal. But Machiavelli understood something that most never do. Power is never absolute. It's an illusion, fragile, delicate, and dependent on those who seem weak. The weak, he said, are not powerless. They are unseen, and that makes them dangerous. 1. The hidden law of control. Machiavelli observed that every ruler, no matter how mighty, depends on something fragile: trust. The king depends on his advisors. The general depends on his soldiers. The rich man depends on the poor who build his empire. This dependency is the silent weapon of the weak. If you cannot win through strength, you win through influence. If you cannot control directly, you control indirectly. Power is a game of strings, and those who appear weak often pull them from the shadows. 2. The psychology of the weak. The weak survive by understanding what the powerful ignore: human emotion. While the strong rely on domination, the weak rely on perception. They learn when to flatter, when to agree, when to disappear. They use humility as armor and obedience as disguise. They understand the most Machiavellian truth of all: he who cannot be a lion must learn to be a fox. The fox survives not by strength, but by subtlety. He observes, adapts, and waits. He allows the lion to believe he rules, while quietly leading him to the trap. 3. The power of invisibility. There's an old saying, the nail that sticks out gets hammered. The weak know this. That's why they hide. They let others fight for recognition while they gather information. They study the flaws, the habits, the egos of those who rule. Then, when the moment comes, they strike where it hurts the most. Not with weapons, but with timing. The unseen man cannot be destroyed because he is not visible enough to be attacked. The powerful underestimate him, and in that underestimation lies their downfall. 4. Turning weakness into strategy. Machiavelli believed that power is not about strength, it's about adaptation. When you are weak, you must become fluid, unpredictable, uncatchable. Like water, you flow around obstacles instead of breaking them. Like smoke, you hide in the air, invisible but everywhere. He wrote, "A wise man should rely neither wholly on fortune nor wholly on strength, but on the skill to use both." So the weak man studies both power and chance, and waits for their intersection. That's where he acts. That's where kings fall. 5. The hidden advantage. Power makes men blind. It fills their ears with praise and their hearts with arrogance. But the weak, they see clearly. They have nothing to lose, and that makes them alert, aware, and hungry. They watch the mighty waste their energy fighting each other while they build patience. They become the ones who whisper in the king's ear, advise the ruler, influence the direction of empires. History remembers kings, but it was always the silent mind behind the throne that controlled them. 6. The beginning of the rise. Every empire, every leader, every tyrant, all fell not to strength, but to strategy. Caesar was destroyed by his closest allies. Kings were overthrown by their servants. Corporations collapse not by competitors, but by internal betrayal. The weak win not by force, but by foresight. They plan 5 moves ahead. They build trust, gain access, and strike when no one expects it. As Machiavelli taught, never appear stronger than your master. Instead, make him believe he controls you until you no longer need him. 7. The seed of power. So if you are weak, do not despair. You are not powerless. You are unseen, underestimated, forgotten. And that is your greatest weapon. The lion roars to show power. The fox smiles to hide it. But when the roar fades, the smile remains, calculating, silent, waiting. The first step to power is not dominance. It's observation, because those who understand others always end up controlling them. The battlefield of the modern world isn't made of swords or shields. It's made of minds. And those who understand the mind rule those who don't. Machiavelli knew this centuries ago. He wrote that a ruler must learn to be both loved and feared, But the truly dangerous man learns how to create both emotions without lifting a finger. That's psychological warfare, and the weak have mastered it better than anyone. The weak cannot overpower the strong, but they can outthink them. The powerful act through confidence. The weak act through calculation. The weak man studies perception, how others see him. He learns to appear loyal, harmless, humble. He builds the image of a follower, but behind that mask hides a strategist. Men judge more by the eye than by the hand, Machiavelli said. For everyone can see, but few can understand. The wise man uses this blindness. He lets the world see what he wants them to see, not what he truly is. That's the first step of psychological dominance. Control the perception, and you control the outcome. People like to think they are rational, but they're not. They're emotional creatures, easily swayed by praise, guilt, or fear. The weak know this, and they exploit it. When they can't command respect through power, they create emotional influence. They learn what others desire most: attention, validation, safety, and offer it. Then, slowly they withdraw it. The powerful man starts to need the weak one for approval, for comfort, for loyalty. And the moment someone depends on you emotionally, you own them. This is the silent art of control, to make others feel powerful while you direct their feelings. Predictability is weakness. Once people can guess your next move, they can trap you. The weak survive by being unreadable. They shift moods, alter behaviors, and change opinions, not because they're confused, but because confusion is a weapon. They keep others guessing. Will he agree or oppose? Will he act or stay silent? That uncertainty creates tension, and tension creates control. When people cannot predict you, they begin to respect you. When they cannot understand you, they begin to fear you. Machiavelli said, "The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present." The weak use this principle masterfully. Flexibility as survival, unpredictability as dominance. There's one weapon more dangerous than force: understanding. The weak study the strong, their habits, desires, insecurities, and then reflect them back. They become the mirror. When the powerful speak, the weak listen deeply. They imitate gestures, tone, and language. They make the powerful feel understood, accepted, even admired. And that's when attachment forms. The strong begin to trust, even love, the reflection. They lower their defenses, not realizing the mirror is watching, recording, waiting. Once you understand someone's reflection, you can predict their every move. And that's the essence of psychological warfare: control without confrontation. One of Machiavelli's most subtle tactics was sowing doubt. He understood that power doesn't need to be destroyed. It only needs to question itself. The weak plant tiny seeds of uncertainty. A suggestion here, a comment there. They make the powerful question their allies, their plans, even their own strength. Divide and conquer, Machiavelli wrote, and division begins in the mind. Once doubt takes root, power begins to decay. The king starts to suspect his loyal men. The general questions his strategy. The leader fears shadows that don't exist. And while they fight ghosts, the weak quietly move into position. Nothing deceives like devotion. The weak wear loyalty like a cloak, hiding ambition beneath obedience. They nod when spoken to, agree when ordered, and smile when insulted. But behind every smile, there's calculation. Every act of obedience builds trust, and every ounce of trust becomes leverage. When the time is right, the weak use that trust as a weapon. They don't attack, they simply withdraw. And when the powerful lose loyalty, they lose stability. Machiavelli warned rulers, the unarmed man must learn the art of deceit. And deceit, when used wisely, is not betrayal, it's strategy. The weak understand a paradox. The one who speaks least often controls the one who speaks most. Words are emotional. They reveal thought, expose intention, and surrender power. Silence, however, creates tension, and tension commands respect. So, the weak listen more than they talk. They make others reveal themselves through conversation. They let the powerful expose their plans through arrogance. Because once a man speaks his mind, he's predictable. But the silent man, he's a mystery. And mystery, in every age, is the birthplace of fear. The weak never win through strength. They win through influence. They don't fight battles. They make others fight for them. They don't destroy reputations. They let others do it unknowingly. Psychological warfare is not about attack. It's about control. It's about shaping reality through perception and timing. The powerful depend on dominance. The weak depend on understanding. And in a world ruled by emotion, understanding always wins. The true Machiavellian lesson is this. To defeat the lion, you must become a mind that guides him. That's how the powerless rise. Not by strength, but by intelligence, patience, and perfect silence. The most dangerous power isn't force. It's influence. Influence doesn't shout. It whispers. It doesn't command. It suggests. And those who master it rule even kings. Machiavelli understood this truth. Power is not given. It's taken, often without anyone noticing. The weak cannot conquer through muscle or wealth. So they conquer through subtlety, mastering the art of bending others to their will without ever appearing to do so. Influence begins long before action. It starts with positioning. The wise don't rush to control the stage. They control the spotlight. They place themselves where every path of power must pass. They become useful, not through strength, but through necessity. The king listens to the one who knows his secrets. The leader trusts the one who handles his chaos. The warrior depends on the one who calms his fears. The weak man becomes indispensable, not visible. He hides behind usefulness, and through it becomes untouchable. The wise man does at once what the fool does at last. Machiavelli, while others chase recognition, the strategist builds position. He knows true power lies in being needed, not seen. Influence is never direct. You never tell people what to do. You make them want to do it themselves. The weak understand this instinctively. They plant ideas like seeds through stories, suggestions, or emotions. They never command, they guide. When you tell a proud man what to do, he resists. But when you make him believe it was his own idea, he defends it like a religion. This is the invisible hand of manipulation, not to dominate decisions, but to design desires, to make others walk willingly into the direction you chose long ago. The world's most powerful men fall not to armies, but to admiration. The weak understand that ego is every ruler's blind spot, so they use it as their key. They don't flatter mindlessly. They mirror. They reflect a man's best image back to him. They make him feel wise, visionary, irreplaceable. And once someone feels understood, they open every gate. Machiavelli wrote, "Men are won more by the appearance of respect than by respect itself." To influence, you don't need honesty, you need precision. You give people the illusion of importance, and they'll give you everything else. Every relationship is a chess piece on the board of power. The weak know this, and they play accordingly. They don't waste emotion on everyone. They calculate. Who holds the door to opportunity? Who controls the information? Who shapes the narrative? They build alliances with intent, sometimes through kindness, sometimes through empathy, and sometimes through fear. They don't need everyone to like them. They just need the right people to trust them. And when that trust spreads, influence multiplies. Because in every system, reputation travels faster than truth. The weak often lack presence, but they use absence as a weapon. When you're always available, you're predictable. But when you vanish at key moments, your value increases. Absence crée mystère. Mystery breeds curiosity. Curiosity leads to attention, and attention is influence. The weak understand that silence and distance can manipulate desire far more effectively than constant effort. They don't chase, they attract, because people always chase what withdraws from them. Men are more moved by fear of loss than by hope of gain. Machiavelli, by vanishing, the weak make the powerful feel their absence, and through that feeling, they gain control. Influence without timing is chaos. The weak succeed not because they act more, but because they act later when it matters most. They study emotion. They wait for fatigue, frustration, or failure. And when the powerful stumble, they step forward, not as rivals, but as saviors. They offer help, advice, solutions. And in that vulnerable moment, they gain entry. Machiavelli called this the virtue of opportunity, to strike not with force, but with perfect timing. Because the right move at the right moment outweighs 1,000 acts of strength. Influence thrives in invisibility, and nothing hides intelligence like pretending to lack it. The weak often appear harmless, uninformed, or naive. They let the powerful underestimate them, and underestimation is the greatest gift in war. Because when people believe you're harmless, they show you their true self. They talk freely, expose weaknesses, and reveal plans. And while they laugh at your simplicity, you're already 3 steps ahead. He who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived. Machiavelli. Playing dumb isn't cowardice, it's camouflage, a shield that turns arrogance into exposure. Influence isn't only about logic, it's about emotional exchange. The weak understand the currency of emotion better than the strong. They know when to give empathy, when to give silence, and when to withhold both. They don't react, they respond. Every smile, every pause, every sigh is a calculated move. They use emotion like a sculptor uses tools to shape reactions, gain trust, and steer direction. When a powerful man gets angry, he reveals his weakness. But when a weak man stays calm, he becomes unshakable and therefore untouchable. True influence doesn't need recognition. The weak don't want the throne, they want the mind of the king. Let others chase glory. The strategist seeks control over those who hold it. When others sit on the stage, he writes the script. When others lead, he whispers the words they speak. This is the final Machiavellian truth. Power that can be seen can be taken, but influence that is invisible can never be removed. Machiavelli taught that real power doesn't lie in armies or crowns. It lies in understanding human nature. The weak who master this rule become architects of fate. They no longer react to the world, they design it. They predict desire. They manipulate perception. They build systems that serve them without anyone realizing it. They become the invisible hand that writes history. And while others fight for power, they create the rules of the game itself. This is the highest form of domination, intellectual power. When your ideas control the actions of others, you no longer need to fight for control. You are control. Every great strategist knows. The moment you prove your power, you begin to lose it. That's why the weak who rise never announce their victories. They let their influence spread like smoke, silent, shapeless, but impossible to stop. They speak less, observe more, and let others reveal themselves. They move like shadows, present everywhere, seen nowhere. And by the time anyone realizes what's happening, it's too late. The throne has already shifted hands. Machiavelli warned, "Fortune is a mistress who must be beaten and forced into obedience." In other words, never rely on luck. The weak who rise build systems, not dreams. They create structures that protect them from chance, habits, networks, influence. They prepare for the storm while others dance in the sun. So when fortune shifts, they remain standing. That's the final difference between the powerful and the strategic. The powerful depend on strength. The strategic depend on structure. When the weak finally rise, they don't become kings. They become something higher, the mind behind the king. Others seek credit. They seek control. Others want fame. They want freedom. Because only those who no longer need recognition are truly untouchable. They live beyond praise, beyond fear, beyond the reach of others' opinions. Machiavelli said, "Men should be either caressed or annihilated. They will avenge light injuries, but not heavy ones." The wise follow this principle not to destroy, but to dominate decisively and never be challenged again. In the end, all strength fades. The lion grows old. The sword rusts. The empire crumbles. But strategy endures. Wisdom multiplies. Influence spreads like roots beneath the earth. The weak may begin as servants, soldiers, or students. But through cunning, patience, and insight, they end as rulers of destiny. The Machiavellian rise is not loud. It's silent. Not glorious, but inevitable. And when it happens, no one even notices. Because by the time they do, the game is already over. So if you are weak, remember this. You were never powerless. You were simply preparing. The world belongs not to the loud, but to the quiet. Not to the visible, but to the invisible. Not to the strong, but to the wise. From the grand theater of life, those who write the script rule the stage forever. The wise man creates circumstances. The fool complains about them. Machiavelli, be the creator. Be the strategist. Be the shadow that rules the world in silence.